Hi, so I am back trying to do a live interview with Amie, one of the founders from National Capital Doulas, a fantastic service in Ottawa that offers doula services for both pregnancy and postpartum care. In case you haven't seen, Amie wrote 2 articles that I published on my website. One, which is 5 reasons why you need a birthing doula. So obviously it's part of your pregnancy and part of your delivery care. And 5 reasons why you need a postpartum doula. Because if you've ever had a newborn at home, you know that there are lots of WTF moments when you're trying to figure out what to do with a baby. And having someone there who's knowledgeable would be so beneficial. Versus family is wonderful and they give some great advice, but sometimes their advice is also not the most accurate. So having a professional that is readily available to answer your questions and help remind you that you're not totally insane when you're trying to adjust with that new baby at home, fantastic resource. This is something I had no idea about. I knew about birth doulas because I've got a girlfriend who is one, and she was supposed to be present at my first delivery, but it was a little chaotic and no one made it in time. The second midwife didn't make it in time. We just had the one midwife and 2 nursing staff and my poor husband. So obviously didn't get the full experience with that, but she was such a fantastic ear throughout my whole pregnancy because she was educated in all of the questions that I had, and I didn't have to worry about, calling and waiting for a return phone call with my midwife or doctor or whoever. It was fantastic to have her at my disposal. So Amie, I originally met, don't mind me, I'm just going to pick up the newborn while we do this. Amie is one of the founders of National Capital Doulas in Ottawa, and I originally met her through the Baby Mama Hustle Market in the spring. So she is a wonderful woman, does all of this to help other mothers, other families, while trying to take care of a family of her own. So entrepreneur, mom, and just all around wonderfully knowledgeable person. Obviously the baby would start screaming while I try to do this, because that's just what babies do. We're going to pause this again for one quick second, see if I can figure out what's going on. And obviously the baby would need to eat while I'm trying to do this. So that's what I guess parenting is all about, is just figuring out how to roll with punches and ignoring the barking dog and babies and all that stuff. What is this? So, yes, in case you are interested in doula services, and just learning more about what they have to offer or including them as part of your pregnancy and postpartum care, highly recommend getting in touch with Amie and her team. They are wonderful ladies. Oh, goodness gracious. We are dealing with baby and videos, because that's just what happens sometimes. I got a lot of responses on Instagram this afternoon just saying that although a lot of people had heard of doula services, they hadn't actually included them in their pregnancy or postpartum care, which I found really interesting because of the value that they add. Whether you're seeing a doctor or a midwife, there's a lot of the times you feel like you're quote unquote bothering someone with your questions. So why not take advantage of an additional resource if you have it available? Hi, Bree. Okay. For some reason, you are the only... Oh, there we go. Where is Amie? Trying to... There we go. Bring Amie. Slowly, we're figuring out this technology thing. Hi, how are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing? Can hear your
Good,
little one
sorry.
having a nice meal.
Oh, goodness, yes. And poor kid got scored in the face, too.
It's always how
Because
it
if you
goes.
don't wear it, why is it a good meal?
That's right, exactly.
So, yes, I've just spent a couple minutes talking you up and talking about what I know of doula services.
Okay.
But first of all, tell us a little bit about you and your family. Oh, goodness. Sorry, trying to juggle the baby as we do all this.
Right. It's where you need to have extra hands.
Oh, yes.
So a little bit about me and
Sorry.
my family.
Yes. Sorry,
So
distracted.
my name, a little bit, I totally understand. So my name is Amie Scharfe. I'm the owner of National Capital Doulas. Professionally, I'm a birth and postpartum doula, childbirth educator. I also am trained to provide lactation education and support. So I've been doing doula work, especially birth doula work now for close to a decade. So I started when my older two children, I have three boys. My oldest is 10. My middle one is 8. He'll be 9 very soon. He keeps reminding me, I'm almost 9. I'm closer to 9. And then I have a little guy who will be 2 in September. So I started doing doula work when my middle guy was really young. He was only a few months old. And we live here in Barrhaven, so we're in the Ottawa area. And we've been here for a while, and I'm married. My husband is a federal government employee, which makes it a little easier for me to do this kind of work. But yeah, that's sort of the gist of me.
So my next question is, what got you into running your own business as a doula?
So being a doula usually does involve running your own business. So most of us start out as solo doulas, so we're sole proprietors. And then there is starting to be a little bit more things like National Capital Doulas, where doulas can join, and they're not having to deal with the business end of things. But when I started, that didn't really exist in Ottawa at all. So I started out having to learn the doula end of things and also learn how to be a business person. So juggling a whole bunch of hats all at the same time. So learning things that I never thought I would need to know how to do, like bookkeeping. And now, of course, nowadays social media is a huge piece of everything we do. Website maintenance and all of these things that kind of fall under the umbrella now of being a business person. Yeah, so we just kind of fall into it. Oftentimes, too, our training doesn't have a lot of information about the business end of things. So we're having to self-teach or, pursue things like Invest Ottawa and take their courses, that sort of thing. So yeah, it can be a bit of a tough slog sometimes to try to balance, what a word, all of this stuff, right? And on top of taking care of a family.
Yes, well, I was going to say, 3 boys, you must be super busy.
They're busy. Yeah, they're busy. And I always used to think that being a doula would get easier as they got older, but I was deluding myself a little bit, I think. I think it just kind of gets more challenging, but in different ways. So now they're busier themselves, right? So you kind of become the mum taxi and you're taking them everywhere and they're doing things and they're busy. And yeah, so it just changes.
Now, can you describe a little bit the birth versus postpartum doula?
Sure. So for birth, we're brought into a family's life when they're still pregnant. We are sometimes with postpartum as well, but we're there to support them specifically through pregnancy, so preparing them for the birth that's coming. So that's where a lot of our informational and educational support comes in. So we make sure they understand how things work, where they're choosing to have a baby, and what they can expect if they go past their due date or they find out their baby's breech or any of these multitude of things that can happen. And then we're there with them through the birth. So the labor, if there is a labor, or a cesarean, if they're having a cesarean birth. And then we support them after. So we follow up with them. We make sure things are starting off on the right foot. We provide them with access to information or resources in the community, because we spend a lot of time building those kinds of connections, and just making sure they have access to the help that they need if they need help in a certain area. In terms of postpartum, we may have some involvement prenatally. We may help people develop like postpartum plans, that sort of thing. But typically where we're really involved is after the baby or the babies have been born. So we're going into their home. We're helping them set up or develop household systems. We're helping them with any feeding issues that there may be. We're helping them like learn all that baby care stuff and just learn about their baby and what that cry means and how you can soothe them and how you can deal with the fact that, things have kind of upended on you a little bit and sleep is a little elusive, and how you can cope with that and strategies you can come up with to deal with that sort of thing. And then we also help them with practical hands-on stuff. So laundry, and we do meal prep, and we'll tidy up their kitchen, that sort of stuff.
Oh, I feel like I need extra hands for laundry constantly.
It's amazing the amount of laundry that can come from these little tiny bodies, right? But yeah, so a lot of it is that kind of stuff. And it really differs from one family to the next, what they need most. And it can change from one shift to the next too. As we know, our days are ever changing when we have little people.
Yes. No, that's awesome. Now, do you see more in the birthing side or the postpartum side?
We, with National Capital Doulas, we have a fairly even split. So we tend to do the same amount of work on both ends, and sometimes we'll have people that'll be with us for birth, and then we'll be with them for postpartum afterwards as well. So some people, they specialize in birth, or some people do just postpartum work, so it really just depends on what the doula is doing.
Interesting. Now, are you seeing a growing need and a growing like desire for doula services?
I think so, because I think the awareness is changing, right? So especially whenever we have celebrities that have had doulas. I mean, Meghan Markle had a doula for her birth, so then people are like, oh, a birth doula. So there starts to be more just general awareness of it. So I think definitely with birth, people are knowing more what that is. I mean, there still sometimes is a little misconception between what a doula is versus what a midwife is, but most people have heard of the term birth doula.
Yes, well, I was going to say, as someone who used a midwife for both my deliveries, if I hadn't known someone who was a doula, I would have had no idea what the difference was.
Right, and that's a fairly common thing. We do hear that a lot, and there is certainly some overlap in terms of the emotional support that we provide and some of just the suggestion and the assistance through labor and birth that we provide. But the big difference between the two is we don't do clinical care. So we're not checking for fetal heart tones. We're not checking to see how dilated somebody is. We're not responsible for the health of the mother or the baby. So we're there just to help someone be more comfortable and suggest positions that can help things to move along and those kinds of things through the process.
Well, one thing I've talked to a few people about recently is it's so important to have that trust relationship with someone in the delivery room.
Absolutely. And that's where we can provide that continuity too. So oftentimes if someone has a physician as their primary carer for their pregnancy, there's not a big chance of having them there when you're in labor, and oftentimes you don't really see the physician that much when you're having a baby, and that usually means everything's going fine. So they'll come in and kind of introduce themselves, and then they come in at the end. So it's really the nursing staff that people are working with through the course of their labor, and nurses go off shift, right? So, and they take lunch breaks and that sort of thing. So, and you don't know who it's going to be when you go. So we really do fill that gap. So we're someone that you've built a relationship with prenatally, you've gotten to know each other. There's a connection between you and your doula knows what you want, and she knows what you're looking for, and is there to help you to ask the questions you need to ask, to make sure you know what your options are, and there to support your choices while you're having your baby.
Yes, I was going to say, and that advocacy is so important too.
Right. And a lot of what we do is really encouraging self-advocacy. So we really make sure that people understand that they absolutely can ask questions, that it's important that they understand what's being suggested to them. We help them with the kinds of questions that are good to ask. Like, we want to make sure people understand what the benefits and risks are and what their options are. So we're there to facilitate those conversations. We're not the voice for the person when they're birthing, but we're there to help them to have their voice and to use their voice.
Yes, which is fantastic. I mean, I don't think it happens as much in Canada. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I know, especially down in the States, there's all these articles about births that don't have to go to emergency procedures.
Right. The idea of the unnecessary cesarean.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, anything can happen anywhere. Yeah, I mean, it's really important that people are fully informed of what their choices are. And that's a lot of what goes into someone feeling positive about their experience, because there's so much that we can't control during a birthing process. But it makes a big difference when you have someone there that believes in you, someone there that's not judging what you're choosing. You know, they believe in you, and they believe that what you're deciding for yourself is the best choice for you in that moment. And they're hearing you. And that goes a long way to feeling good about your birth experience, regardless of what happens during the process.
Yes, no, that's fantastic. And I am such a big believer in, like I said, that trust relationship and being able to be informed.
Right. Yeah, it's
I
paramount.
I know with Google out there, some people, you get lost in the sea, the black hole.
Right. And we actually do, oftentimes we end up being Google for people, right? Because there is so much information out there. And nowadays too, I mean, like, there's a lot of groups on social media, but you don't know what someone's background is when they're responding to something. You don't know if they have professional experience and what it is. So you don't really know the quality of the information you're receiving. And that can not be wonderful. So we really do help people find, if there is something happening, there's research, right? So we make sure people have access to the information that they want to have. And we're making sure that it's good quality information too, that it's not just somebody's opinion on a blog or something like that, right? That it's something that does have something behind it.
Yeah, actual credible information.
That's right. Exactly. It's very important. Because so much too, when you Google nowadays, it'll be like chat groups and that sort of thing that come up, and who knows what you're reading, right? So.
Yeah, you never know what you're getting.
That's right.
Now, one question that I've asked you before, and I like to always ask,
right.
What's some advice that you'd pass on to another mom trying to run a business while managing a family?
Right. So we talk a lot in our society. We like the word balance. I don't believe in balance. Like, I think it's something that I look at it as more of being a bit of a pendulum, right? So something is always going to be taking the majority of your attention. Something is always going to be needing you a little bit more, and that alternates between family and work. And it's hard. It's hard because oftentimes they're competing directly with one another. A lot of it is you have to, you can't always be everything to everyone, right? So if you need to step back from something, that's okay. With business, if you can, outsource something. Get something off your plate if you can afford to do it in your business. That's one of the first things we did is the bookkeeping's got to go. Someone else can do it, right? So, I mean, it makes a big difference, right? Instead of trying to slog through and do something that's maybe not your forte, because I mean, as business people, we do wear a lot of hats, but we're not going to be experts at everything. But there are experts out there in these different areas, so use them if you can. And I think we just really need to be more gentle with ourselves. Like, we expect a lot of ourselves, and there's a lot of mom guilt or parent guilt that gets in there, or, you know, business person guilt. You feel like you're not spending enough time on your business, or you're not being a good enough mom because you're not engaged enough. I think we just need to step back from that stuff, and we need to just give ourselves a bit of a break, right? And it's
Yes.
okay to let go of some stuff. It's okay if you're not the best at everything in any given moment. And I think we need to just remove the word balance from all of this, because I'm not convinced it's possible. Like, I think it's something that's a little unattainable.
Oh, no.
Right? And I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to try to get this elusive balance that just isn't there.
Yes, we all think we need to be super mom, but it's just not possible.
That's right. That's right. Exactly. We can't. I mean, we wear capes. We look really good in our capes, but there's only so much we can do with that stuff, right? So yeah, and I think we just need to be a little more careful with it. And we talk about self-care and that kind of stuff too. And I mean, I think we just really need to maybe break that down a little better than we do. And I think it just really means more to me. Like, yeah, you can sit with a book, or you can have a nice bath, or you can go to the spa, or that sort of thing. But I think it has to do more with how we are mentally and emotionally with ourselves than any sort of action we do.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
No, 100%. Awesome. Thank you so much. I love doing these, and I'm so excited we've gotten to chat more than once.
Yes, absolutely. No, it's my pleasure. It's so great to chat with you again. And your little one is so sweet, little cute little back of the head there.
Yeah, she's passed out now.
Of course, she had a great feed, and off she goes.
So awesome. Thank you so much. I'm going to save this so that we can repost.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. It was great to chat.
No problem. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.